Pumpkin Spice is a cozy, casual RPG where you all, including the GM, play as young, friendly witches trying to run a cafe and maintain a source of magic within that cafe. It was created by Samuel Marola of Acheron Games out of Italy. Acheron, if you recall, is the publisher of a number of incredibly ambitious and stunning 5e adaptations, such as Inferno, Broncolonia, and Apocalypse, as well as an upcoming revamp of Lex Arcana, and non-5e creations such as Malavita and Hell of a Town. This game is one of those non-5e creations from Acheron, and out of all of them, I think it's the most casual and vibes-based. I'll note up front that all the illustrations, done by an artist named Sims Art, depict one sort of perky, young, usually heavily tattooed witch or another. There is definitely a sort of sapphic ideal being communicated here, one that I think is very visually appealing, but definitely sort of precludes any notion of male PCs in this game, or older witches for that matter. But that being said, in this video, I'm only going to walk you through the free 62-page quick start for the game. The full game may explicitly open up the kinds of witch you can be, and I can tell you right now that the mechanics do not suggest any limitation on the gender or the age of your witch. The idea of the game is that in this world, magic is real, but it's hidden and relatively rare. The only people who can channel and use the remaining magic of the world are witches. Magic doesn't really come from within each of these witches as much as it's actually sourced from founts of magic. Your party of witches, or coven, center their fantasy coffee shop around one of these founts, which starts with 10 spendable magic points. These are a shared point pool for the coven. Normally, people are attracted to your cafe because of the fount of magic within, but they are not aware of the magic. Your job is to continuously provide good drinks and experiences for these customers and otherwise handle small magical events, the successful results of which will feed the magic pool and keep the cafe's vibes up. The game's mechanics are based squarely on d6s, and each face is represented by one of 6 magical essences. Memorizing each of these symbols is really the only heavy lifting you'll have to do when learning this game. There's no actual math here. If you don't use the specialty dice, you can just use numbered d6s, but you're never adding up rolls. All tests are strictly attempts to get certain symbols. You will also roll dice on a whim in order to interpret them creatively and add details to the ongoing story. In terms of dice outcomes, there are always just 2. You either meet or exceed the correct symbols that you're shooting for, or you don't. So the outcome is either favorable or unfavorable. As far as your witch goes, they are defined by 6 traits that each range from 1 to 3. When you roll for any given test, you're rolling 1d6 plus 1d6 for each level of trait that you bring into play for that roll. So any test is going to range from 2d6 to 4d6. That shared magic point pool is actually used as a meta currency. If you spend a magic point after making a roll, you can either transform one of the dice results into an essence that your witch is connected to, or you can transform an essence that your witch is connected to into another result. And you can use magic points as many times as you want on a single roll, as long as you have the points. But obviously, you don't want to blow through all your magic points. The actual location and nature of the coffee shop that you run as a coven is completely up to you. Its size and location and interior design actually don't have any bearing on the gameplay, but this is part of the intended joy of the game, just coming up with creative details and agreeing on something that sounds cozy and inviting. There is one mechanical element of the cafe to worry about, and that is its vibe score, which can range from 0 to 6. You start at 3, and this will go up and down based on various elements in the game. Aside from the magic points, this represents the health of your cafe, each which doesn't actually have any kind of health pool or anything like that. Your cafe's well-being is your well-being, basically. The gameplay loop is relatively soft and amorphous, but everyone does take turns describing their thoughts and emotions through the course of the day in the role of their witch PC, and that includes the GM, who is also expected to be a player. When it's your turn, you just narrate freely and interact with other witches and NPCs like customers. You're not supposed to rely on dice tests very often in this game, though. A test is meant to resolve the core question of any given moment. One of your underlying goals at all times is to try and improve the vibe of the cafe, which is that score that ranges from 0 to 6. So the actual protocol here is the GM describes the situation, which should inherently contain some kind of challenge or conflict. Then everyone talks it over and discusses how their witch plans to contribute to a solution. That includes which trait they want to use in a role. Then they take turns resolving the tests that have been established and use magic points as needed to fudge the dice. Each player will narrate and interpret their dice results into an organic storytelling element, and after everyone is done, everyone collectively puts finishing touches on the moment. There are 3 structured challenges that GMs can throw at players included in this quick start, one of them being Rush Hour. In a nutshell, players elect one leader who will choose a trait and roll to overcome a sudden rush of customers. Each of the other players will describe how they are trying to quell the crowd, and the leader will roll 1d6 plus an extra die for every other player trying to help. For every essence that wasn't met for that test, the cafe loses a point of vibe. So the players are encouraged here to fudge the dice with magic points when they need to. Mediums are another kind of special challenge that will show up at the cafe. Mediums are people with a special connection to the fount of magic, and when they walk in, one player will roll a die and interpret it in order to describe the medium. The next step in this challenge is to interact with the medium through conversation in order to ascertain the perfect beverage for them, but they only get to interact with the medium 1 plus the number of vibe points that the cafe currently has. It's like a timer, at the expiration of which the drink needs to be made and served to the medium. The GM in this challenge will roll 3d6 in secret in order to determine the actual perfect drink for this medium. Each correct ingredient added to the drink will earn 1 magic point for the cafe, and if all 3 ingredients are correct, then the cafe gains 1d6 additional points on top of the 3. The third and final structured challenge is called a UME, or Unexpected Magical Event. These will usually occur about once per day. The important thing to note here is that the full game is going to have spells, and each spell will have a number of elements to them. They can be generic or tied to a specific essence and available only to certain kinds of witches. They will also have required essences to be rolled in order to be successfully cast. They each have a magic point cost and a condition that must be met in order to cast. As the GM, this is kind of what your prep needs to look like. Name the objective, the number and type of test, the target essences that need to be rolled, and the consequences for failure. This is actually a pretty great encounter shorthand for any RPG, honestly. The full game is apparently going to have a questionnaire for character creation, more guidance on essence usage and interpretation, procedures for generating moments or daily conflicts, a bunch of pre-written moments, guidance on creating mediums, more mechanics and guidance on ingredients, and a system for leveling up your witch towards a sort of in-game state called realization. All right, here are my thoughts on pumpkin spice so far. First, I have a couple of concerns. Long-term campaign depth. My main concern with vibes-based games is longevity. I hope the full game's realization mechanic offers enough crunch and character progression to sustain a long-term campaign. Running a coffee shop could get repetitive without meaningful mechanical evolution for the Coven. Concrete interpretive tools. Because the game relies so heavily on interpreting abstract symbols, I'm pinning a lot of hope on comprehensive guidance in the full game. Without that, the mental load on everyone to constantly improvise meaning from the 6 abstract essences could result in exhaustion. There are also some core things that I really love about this game so far. The GM as player dynamic. It's refreshing to see a system that explicitly integrates the game master into the party. By having the guide play as a witch, the game dissolves the referee versus players dynamic and turns the session into a genuinely communal narrative. Gamifying empathy. I think the game's design succeeds by turning emotional intelligence into a puzzle. The medium mechanic, where you have to deduce a customer's emotional needs on a timer to brew the perfect drink, potentially provides a sense of accomplishment usually reserved for tactical combat. The shared health pool. The decision to tie health to the fount of magic rather than the individual witches is good design. It forces the table to work cooperatively. You're managing a shared resource, the magic points, to keep the business and the magic, as well as the vibe, alive. It reinforces the themes of community and stewardship. That's all I have so far for Pumpkin Spice. I'd love to hear your thoughts on ultra cozy vibes based games like this down in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe for more RPG reviews, and join the channel as a member for exclusive videos and content. Links for everything are below. I'll see you in the next one.